Welcome to the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where we remember a time when stacks of cards were held together with rubber bands and Mickey Mantles were put in bike spokes. We hope you will enjoy and reminisce as you come along with us as we tell stories about the baseball cards from the Golden Age of Baseball. We will examine the state of the vintage baseball card market and talk to some of the greatest collectors in the hobby. You won't be hearing us talk about any chrome or shiny cards here. Now, to take you on this retrospective journey, here's your host, direct from the shallow end of the gene pool, my son, Mike Moynihan.
Yo, and hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast. I know it's been a minute since I did my last show. I took a couple of weeks getting ready for the National, being at the National, and so I apologize to all of you who have been eagerly anticipating a new episode of Golden Age of Cardboard. So all three of you that were looking forward to that, here you go. You got a new episode. Just got back from being in Atlantic City. It was an amazing experience, just like it is every year. It was absolutely fantastic. As I talked to my guests today, who were also at the show, we're going to go through all kinds of stuff. We're going to go through everything from the venue, the place, how the vintage market was. That's what we're going to focus on today. So you're going to hear a lot about that. I'm probably going to share some pickups because there's a lot of you that listen to the podcast or watch on Bench Clear that don't necessarily follow me on Baseball Collector, and where I was doing daily recaps every day. So if you do that, you'll hear some redundancy, some things you've heard before, but I hope you'll enjoy it because I had a really great show. There's no other way to put it. I had a fantastic show, and I have to admit that I was really wrong about what I expected from this show and what actually came to fruition. I don't want to spoil any of that. I'll talk about that in a minute once I bring my guests on board. But I want to say quickly before I do that, how much I truly appreciate so many of you that came up to me and just said how much you love the show, how much you love this show, especially the podcast, and several guys that expressed to me how this show, really helped them as they were getting into vintage and just how much it's really accelerated their collecting. And that I only needed one person to tell me that, and it would make it worth it. And I had a bunch of you tell me that. So thank you very much. I had several of you that only listen on podcasts and you don't know what I look like. You don't watch it on YouTube. And so I was at Craig's table many times throughout the show, and there would be someone that had come to Craig's table. He's a dealer that I've had on the show several times just because he was on the show. And I said, you need to go check out Craig's stuff. And they hear me talking to Craig. They're like, oh my gosh, you're Mike, because they could hear my voice. So that was just super cool. And I'm always humbled by that. I can't imagine anybody listens to this, but I know that you do. And I appreciate that. So let's get into the show itself. Let me bring on my two guests. You've seen them on here a bunch before. Both of them were with me for the series we did on the favorite sets of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And it's none other than George, Diamond Yard Sports Cards, and Don from Don's Field of Dream Cards. Hey, guys.
What's up, Mike? What's up, George?
Hey, Mike.
Do we have any voices left? That's the first critical question. And are our feet sore?
The dogs are barking.
The dogs are barking.
My feet are fine. It's my freaking knee.
Your knee. Yeah, I mean.
A bad knee.
And we're not exactly, spring chickens in terms of age, but I was able to meet George. This is the first time you and I met in person, was at this show. And
yeah, it was.
It was awesome to see you. I mean, I'm 6'2", and George is a lot taller. You're 6'4", 6'5", something like that.
6'4", yeah.
And Don's, 7'2".
George is the closest YouTuber to my height. I think maybe I have a half an inch on him. So
You're the
Yeah.
Randy Johnson of YouTubers, Don.
He's the
Apparently.
Randy Johnson.
Apparently.
I got several times from someone, you're taller than I expected you to be. And so that happens. But it was great to see you again, Don. Of course, this was our second show together, second time we've hung out at the National. And overall, Don, start with you. Your just overall impressions of the National.
I had a blast. It was so much fun. It was a little different than last year because I knew you guys all through YouTube and text and emails, but I hadn't met anybody. So this year, it was like a reunion because I'd met many of you before, and then having an Airbnb just like you did, Mike. Oh my God, we had a blast. And this guy up here, George, is a freaking animal. He's the reason I'm so tired right now. But
y'all were in the same Airbnb, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That looked like the party house, I'm telling you.
There was a lot of activities going on there. And Rick kept buying chunk wax every day. We were breaking it at night. It was just so much fun. No one cared about the cards. It was just a great time. And the show was great. I have no complaints. Atlantic City is what it is, but it didn't stop us from having a good time.
Okay. George, what are your thoughts?
I think the number one thing was meeting with everybody and hanging out. I mean, that was really the number one thing for me. Not only the group of guys I stayed with, which were an awesome group, and Don hooked us up with this Airbnb, and he did a really good job.
Mike did. Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry.
You did say that out loud.
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you for the rest of this episode.
There were no mattresses next door to our Airbnb, but that's another story for another time. But I think meeting everybody was also huge. Going to the YouTuber meet and greet, that was a lot of fun. We missed the second night, which I heard was outstanding. And so, for me, that was the absolute total number one thing. And like you said, Mike, with having people come up to you and saying to you, hey, this Golden Age of Cardboard broadcast really helped me, motivated me. I had, you have people come up to you and they're like, I'm so honored to meet you. And it's really humbling because, we're just doing kind of what we love on the channel, on our different channels respectively. And then when we get together and to have people really just appreciate it is something else. So for me, those were the top things. Just just really enjoyed seeing everybody. And it wasn't just, I really tried to talk to people more as much as I can. And I think that was to my detriment show-wise, pretty much, because I wasn't proud on the show like I probably should have. But I really enjoyed the social element of it a lot.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think a lot of people. It's a tough balance, right? Because you've got the social aspect, the people you want to meet, talk to, hang out with, and then you've got a very limited amount of time to be on the show floor and looking for cards to add to your collection. And look, I realize that I'm blessed. I was able to be there on Tuesday afternoon, go into the show during setup day, which, oh, by the way, for those of you that don't know, there's dealers set up. I mean, there's a lot of dealer deals happening on Tuesday and early Wednesday, pre-public opening of the show. And so I was able to do that. I had everything, all of my really big cards that I was targeting bought before the show even opened on Wednesday. And that allowed me the freedom from then on to be more social and I wasn't stressing about getting cards. Not that should be stressful in any setting, but I mean, I came wanting to find some deals. And I expected it to be that way. This is where I was mentioning earlier that I was wrong. I expected it to be a lot larger fire sale from a seller / dealer's perspective, given the state of the economy, given inflation and all the things that are going on in our world. I'm thinking, man, these guys are going to want to get out of this stuff and get out from under all this inventory and get some cash back in their pocket. And that was not the impression that I got once I started talking to dealers and trying to actually buy cards. It was not a fire sale. It was more of a, there were dealers that were willing to make deals and dealers that were absolutely not willing to make deals. I had a dealer tell me, I think you guys have heard the story, but he said, I didn't pay $5,000 to make deals with you guys. Go somewhere else. And I'm like, well, okay.
He didn't sell a lot of cars.
I don't know. I didn't go back to his booth the rest of the show. That was on like Wednesday morning, and he was back in the corner. But overall, I would say the venue itself, I think, was outstanding. Like the actual convention center. I mean, I thought they set it up really well. It was gigantic. Like, could y'all believe how big it was? I mean, it's bigger than Chicago, no doubt.
I think so too. The bathrooms were clean. There weren't any long lines.
Yeah.
You know, it was nice.
They did run out of food pretty much every day.
Did they?
Which was kind of funny. And the food there was actually, I had a burger one day. It was really good. I had chicken fingers one day. I was there. But you know, we don't think about that stuff. But people that go to a show experience want to know about the minutia of it, ironically. How's the food? Is it easy to get to? Internet's terrible, just so you know.
Let me tell you this. That, I mean, from a negative, very positive about a lot of things, but the internet really, from day one, there were problems with the internet, and I took a lot of cards to trade, trying to I hadn't cash to make a deal for a big card, and that may have been what retarded me from making that deal. But I was talking to the dealers, and I was thinking, man, this is causing a lot of problems for the dealers too, because people want to trade cards, maybe do cash and trade, and you can't look up the comparables.
Yeah, you wonder how much they lost, George.
I think they lost a bunch of business.
I was at one booth with John Mangini, and John asked him a price, and the dealer looked at him, and this is a big-time dealer. And he said, well, if you can pull up your phone and get the comps, then we can go from there. I was like, what do you mean I have to get the comps for you? And then we just walked away. But that was the wrong way to go about it. But that was the case for everyone. I mean, you just couldn't go anything. You couldn't even text each other. Hey, I'm over here. Or call each other. You know, meet me here. We just couldn't.
Yeah, we had to go old school and say, hey, we'll meet out front at this time.
Right.
You know, and if you're not there, you're going to miss the train out.
Right.
So it was just, I mean, you couldn't text, you couldn't call. You know, I try to talk to my wife, can't talk to her. It's in and out. It's just the reception was awful. I think that was my biggest complaint about the show was I mean, you know, this should not be a big deal. Other than that, though, there are a lot of positives for sure. But going back to your thought, Mike, about the prices and the dealers willing to deal or not to deal, I think it's interesting because I think these guys, there's a lot of modern guys trying to get into vintage, and there are not a lot of vintage guys trying to get into modern. So,
amen to that.
So these vintage guys have been doing this for years, I imagine. And they don't have to. They're not into it for. I'm like, you know, the younger guys say, oh, well, I'm into it for this much. Not younger guys, just some modern collectors trying to move maybe their modern inventory. These vintage collectors kind of got in low, I think. I mean, I know they're dealers, but they tend to get in low on stuff, and the stuff tends to hold its value more and doesn't go down as much as we would hoped it had gone down, at least in our eyes, for the show.
You know, on that point too, George, some of these older dealers were around before there were comps and eBay. So I don't think it was a big deal for some of them. They kind of know what they had into it and what they want for it. And it wasn't an issue with them. They're like, we've done shows for years without eBay or the internet. And I had no problem with a lot of dealers. Really, it was like, here's the price, here's what I offered. We worked out a deal. I mean, me personally, on their end, there was no issue with the internet. I mean, I couldn't look up comps, but they knew what they wanted.
Well, I think a solution for that for the National to think about, not that they're going to listen to this and care at all what I think, but I bet every person that bought a ticket would pay $1 more to have, you know, some, what are the things called that they amplify the signals, you know, the repeaters, you know, for both cell service and internet.
Right.
you know, if you could pay $1 more and know it was going to be solid, everybody would do that. I mean, there's so many people in one place. You knew it was going to be a stress on the system, right? A strain on the.
But I didn't notice that in Chicago. I mean, I've only been to 2, but I had no problems out there.
That's true.
Internet.
That's true. Good point.
So maybe
But y'all-
Chicago is a little more forward thinking, the facility or the conference. But
What'd y'all think of
Yeah.
the venue itself? Or go ahead, George, if you have another thought on that.
I was just going to say, along the lines of the bad internet preventing deals from happening. It also prevented, the first thing I did when I got in there, one of our guys was looking for a specific card. Lou Rock TV was looking for a specific card. I got there before him. I saw a card in his grade he wanted. I took a picture. I sent it to him immediately. And later on, when I saw him, he's like, I didn't get that. I looked down. It was my very first text in the convention center on Thursday. Or was it Wednesday? Wednesday.
we were there.
And he didn't get it. And then that was at the very beginning. And so you couldn't text people, hey, there's a card over here. I'm looking for a certain card. And you couldn't communicate to let people know, where these cards were, let alone the comps.
Yeah, some of you
it's
on
just-
Wednesday. Some of us were the guy with a flat tire on Wednesday. But
Oh, yeah.
I'm not bitter.
It is interesting. Something that you're talking about, I think for those people that collect and they don't really have a network of friends, a community to rely on. That's why I encourage people all the time to get involved in the community, whether if you're just a watcher and you start commenting and you're, a part of that group. If you're there by yourself, the show's overwhelming already. But I always had guys texting me, hey, I found this over here or this over there. They'd call me, hey, come over here and look at this. And it was great. You basically had a village, looking for you. And I did the same thing. I would go around with guys and help them find cards that they were looking for and help them, assess, is it a good deal or not, help them negotiate, etc. And that was fun. That was a lot of fun for me, especially when I was out of money. That was super. Like, what else am I going to do? I might as well help my buddies find cards. So that's
I agree.
valuable.
It's the buddy system. Like, this isn't a 100-table show. And that was the thing that I'm still trying to get over is how massive this show was. I mean, it's just massive. And, like I'll say, you don't know until you experience it. And it was my first national. And you're trying to find a booth that you thought a card was at, and you should take a picture of it or write the number down so you know where you're going. But it really helped the Boy Scout system, the buddy system, having somebody with you is very helpful because 2 eyes are better than one, or 2 sets of eyes are better than one set of eyes when you have all these tables. And I suspect it was somewhere around 700 tables. I mean, it was massive.
You said before, George, when we had talked, oh, I've been to card shows before. And I'm like, you haven't been to this one, and I teased you a little and I was thinking to myself, you can't explain it. You just can't.
No, you can't.
The scale of it. Were you even surprised by that? You've been to big card shows before. Was this on a different level?
Oh, I was surprised by the amount of dealer. Okay, I was disappointed in one end on some of the selection. Now of some things, and then I was very impressed on the other hand by some others. I mean, yeah, I don't go to shows typically where there's 40 dealers that have a 52 mantle. You don't go to a show very often where the Hank Aaron rookie card is in almost everybody's case. Throughout the vintage group, I didn't. I'm not going into modern all that much, but I did go over there and look around. So you're talking about you forget sometimes. Oh, a Gowdy. You're having a couple Gowdy Ruths. I'll go back to the guy over there who had the Gowdy Ruths. Well, the guy who had the Gowdy Ruths is really like 60 guys who have Gowdy Ruths. It's hard to do that, and they're not all together. So if you're looking for a certain grade or looking for a certain centering or whatever you're looking for, you can lose yourself really quickly if you're not keeping track of things on your phone and taking pictures and knowing where to go back to.
Yeah, but going back.
Yes, Mike, you were right.
Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, going back to the YouTube buddy system. First of all, the first 3 cards I bought were off of YouTubers. First card I bought was off of George in our Airbnb before I even made the show. But you were with me there, Mike, when I bought a card off of JT. That opportunity would not have been available to me if I didn't know these guys on YouTube. You know, it was a card I was looking for, and he happened to have it. But if I didn't know you, I didn't know JT, I wouldn't have found it on the floor. It wasn't from a dealer. And the second thing was I bought an autographed baseball. That is not the game I play in. So I got a hold of Jake. Said, come on down, help me out. We looked at the ball, looked at, you know, what year it was, what was written on it, what the price should be, worked a deal. So I used his expertise to help me get the ball. And then he tied that into the dealer saying, hey, I helped you here with this guy. And he ended up getting a good deal on a ball. And it's just like, you know, there's guys in this hobby that know a lot more about things that you know nothing about. And it's great to have that resource to call them up and say, hey, man, help me out. You know, I don't know what I'm doing.
And no one ever says no, do they?
No.
Meaning everybody is, I don't want to harp on this because not everybody has this, right? So I guess my point is to tell you that if you don't have that, you're welcome. We got plenty of room for you, you know, in this
There were
community.
so many new guys that just started channels that I met this week that joined in, and it was great. They were at your night, and it's amazing how many dealers don't know about our YouTube community. We tell them what we do. You know, we're a bunch of guys that like each other. We all make YouTube channel, or we all make YouTube content about baseball cards. They're like, really? Like they have no idea. And I'm like, well, we're showing your booth and stuff.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's get into the cards themselves a little bit, because I think that's really, you know, the experience was awesome. I think we can all agree with that. I'd choose not to ever do it in Atlantic City again if I had my druthers, but I, you know, again, have no say in that. But overall, it was awesome. I saw more vintage at this show, I think, than I remember in Chicago. There's always a lot of vintage at the National, so it's really tough to compare, honestly. But I saw more raw vintage here than I think I've seen at a National before. There was mountains of it. Everywhere you looked, lots of vintage. Do y'all agree with that? And do you guys think, or were you, if you agree, were you surprised or not surprised? And then I have a complaint about that too after you answer that question.
I wasn't surprised by the amount of vintage, nor the raw versus the slab. The only issue I had, I was looking for some 50 Bowman Hall of Famers and lower grades, and they're not the top guys. And I had a really hard time. Actually, I didn't buy any. You know, and I was looking for a certain T206, and all I could find was super high grades. Or the guys talking about the back, how rare it is. And I don't care about that because I don't have a T206. I just wanted the card. So as far as like where, you know, Mike and I definitely play sometimes lower grades. I felt like I had a harder time finding some lower grade stuff. I mean, I got some. It's not like it wasn't there, but there's so much high-end vintage that I was a little disappointed that I couldn't find what I was looking for as far as the lower end vintage. I don't want to say common because they're Hall of Famers, but they weren't the top end guys.
Yeah, Don, I would agree with you. I was looking for a specific 49 Bowman non-Hall of Famer, Eddie Waitkus, and you know, there's no stacks of 49 Bowman Commons around. You know, everybody's bringing their best stuff to sell. Their stuff that's going to sell and give them the most money. So I think that probably, you know, that's like what you're saying is absolutely true. And I did see a lot of vintage there was a ton of 50s and 60s vintage. A lot of it. Almost like too much. Like, I mean, you could, if you wanted to find a certain 50s or 60s card, I think you really could do that in all kinds of grades. 40s, 30s, maybe not. That's something I observed.
Yeah, but 70s stuff, 80s stuff was pretty non-existent, really. You know, and that's the thing that I'm going to echo what both of you are saying. There were high-end cards everywhere you looked, and I get why dealers use that valuable showcase space for those cards, but I know these guys bring more than they put out, but I don't want to sit and ask every vintage dealer, hey, what do you have behind the curtain, so to speak? What's back there? Because I'm looking for the mid to low grade stuff. A few of them I asked, and I got a couple boxes to look through and stuff, but there's so many tables. I don't have time to stop at every one and ask what they have. I wish there was more of that just available, like obviously available. But I get why there's not, but it was the thing that disappointed me the most. I would have probably bought a lot more $20 to $100 cards if I could just find them. Instead, I had targeted a couple of big cards. I'll talk about that in a second. But
well, I went to your buddy Craig, and I introduced myself, and I mentioned how I enjoyed his podcast, and I bought some cards from him last year. And again, looking for this T206, and he said, I didn't bring any Hall of Famers. They're all commons, but they're all high grade. Because there's a lot of guys that collect that set. And I was just like he had tons of T206. And I would love to buy them from him. Because there's certain guys, because they're good guys and good dealers, so you kind of want to give them your business.
Yeah, but we get it, right? I mean, they only have so much space in their vehicle.
Right.
Or it just kind of sucks that is what it is,
right?
For guys like us.
And he had a lot of too.
It seems to me that it actually could be bigger. It should be. I feel like it should be bigger and more organized. Like by what you do. Maybe I'm. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's like they did have the vintage guys kind of in the same area. But then we found a great vintage guy in the back corner who was willing to work with us and a real friendly guy. And he was right near the breakers or the whatnot booth.
I was just going to say that, George. It would be awesome if they had sections. Here's modern, here's vintage, here's the breakers, here's the corporate. I mean, some of those guys take up so much floor space. If you went over like in the breakers section, it was dead over there. Like, and I just randomly, I didn't know it was over there, so I walked over there. And it's like it would be so nice to be able to just go in areas, and you know what you're looking for. It's like, and I get it. There's some guys that have both. So where do you put them? But
yeah, it seemed kind of like they were trying to keep it modestly, like vintage over here, kind of modern over there, kind of. But it was really patchwork, and it's like it just seemed disorganized to me, at least the way they went. And I know that the obviously work in shows, the guys who have preference are the guys who've done it the longest, and those are the guys
who are going to be
closest.
More likely vintage guys.
Yeah, usually they're more likely vintage guys. They're the guys who are closer to the door, and I understand that. And they shouldn't lose their spots. You could see as you went to the back that the dealers had much more common type of stuff. Whether it was modern or vintage, it was just not as high end because they're just getting in, right? They're just getting into getting a table at the National.
Right. Yeah. And again, I was able to find several cards. I want to talk about grading real quick. I know that I graded a couple of pre-war cards. Neither of y'all graded anything when you were there, did you?
Did you, George? I didn't.
I lost you guys for a second. What was the question?
Did you grade anything at the show?
I gave SGC 2 1949 Dodger photo packs. For some reason, PSA only grades the All-Star photo pack and the Cleveland Indians photo pack. They don't grade the Brooklyn Dodgers photo pack cards or pictures. SGC does. I had gone online and filled out my form, so I dropped off a Roy Campanella and a Jackie Robinson with them, and it was super quick. They were very friendly, and it was a good experience. So hopefully they get high grades. That's it. That's all I dropped. I actually sent my PSA national submission, the $18 a card one. I actually sent mine off before I left because I didn't want to take them with me, and that would take up space.
Right. Yeah. So I graded a T206 Walter Johnson and a 1934 Gowdy Lou Gehrig that I had bought raw, and I took them there. It was $200 a card. I had thought it was going to be $250. That's what I had read, and that was my expectation. sometime in the few days leading up to the national, they lowered it to 200. So when I actually did my submission form, I was pleasantly surprised that it was going to cost me $100 less total to grade the 2 cards. And I showed them to some guys before I submitted them, and we all kind of had a consensus on the grades. Like I was pretty on point. And I got here's the Walter Johnson T206 portrait, which is just a classic card, absolutely. And it's a 2. It came back a 2, which was what I expected. I turned them in, by the way, Wednesday at 2:00 ish, right? I had to wait a little while in the line, even though I hadn't, which didn't make any sense to me. My forms were ready. I just wanted to drop off the cards. It seemed like that should be a faster process than it was. Whatever. Got that done, turned them in. I had the cards back in my hand Thursday morning at 9 a.m. That's crazy.
Yeah,
and good. Like, yes, that's how it's supposed to, like you would think. That's how it's supposed to be.
Unfortunately, how was it last year? Because I think you put the cards in last year.
I turned them in Tuesday last year. They weren't taking submissions this year. I tried on Tuesday.
Right.
I turned them in Tuesday the year before and got them back Thursday afternoon. And then here's the Gaudy Gehrig. It's the number 61 for those of you listening on podcasts. It's the green back version, and it came back a 1.5. I thought for sure this was just a flat 1, maybe even an authentic. And the fact that it got numerically graded, the centering is dead nuts perfect. So that's what everybody's saying. Probably got it the extra half point. The condition of the card is a 1 condition, but the centering might have helped it. So I was super thrilled, and there are a lot of people that have criticized, like, I would never pay $200 to grade a card, and it's highway robbery. Look, it is what it is. You don't have to submit your cards to PSA or SGC or whatever. I chose to do that. To me, it was worth it. I added value to the cards by taking raw cards and grading them. It allows me to add them to registries. There's a lot of reasons that I do that, right? Not everybody has the same reasons or same likes, and that's cool. Y'all want to see some other stuff I picked up? I can show.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
I'll show a few more.
One of the fun parts too is it's so much fun seeing what other guys pick up. Yeah, George got a big, huge card. A couple other guys, and we've all said this, but it's like it's just as much fun going around with someone, watching them buy stuff, and see their excitement. It's just. There's nothing bad about going to the National. We're nitpicking a little bit about certain things, but overall, it's just there's so many things that are good.
I got a couple of 35 Diamond Stars.
Yeah. It's a great set. You picked up one that I have, because I don't have a feeling you're going to show.
Yeah, and that's another thing about the National. I have a few cards that I'm kind of like going, okay, if I see these, I'll be looking to buy these. Those weren't even on my radar, but a dealer had a bunch of those and a bunch of other cards that I wanted, and I wanted to bundle them all together. And I love the Diamond Star set, the Art Deco-ness of it. It's very underrated in my opinion, because the Gaudis just get so much attention for that early to mid 30s era, but that was I got a Sam Rice. I got an Al Lopez, which is great.
That's what I'm talking about.
I love the old catcher's mask hanging, flying off of him, and it's kind of like the Jimmy Fox, I guess, similar to the Fox card of that set.
And don't you have the lines on the ball to show you that the ball is moving?
Yes, yeah. It's fantastic. Just very cool set. I got a couple of 49 Bowman since we were talking about that. And here's another thing that happens at the National that doesn't happen to me anywhere else. People will give me cards like, hey, thanks for what you do. I got this 49 Richie Ashburn rookie from a friend named Chris. He's a great guy. And he gave me quite an amazing stack of stuff. I'm just like, dude, stop it. But this was the last card he gave me. I mean, who gives somebody a 49 Bowman Richie Ashburn rookie? It's like, okay. Oh, Dave does that. Blue Jacket does that. But very few other people do that kind of stuff. And George, you guys have seen this, but there 2 cards I was targeting was the 49 Bowman Page and a 53 Topps Mickey Mantle. And when I asked,
you can hold that page up again.
I'll do it in just a second. But the guys that I was asking pre-show were like, "Well, get both," you know. And I'm like, "Dude, I can't afford both because especially the page, right, has become a very pricey card." And you know, I walked around. I saw a bunch of pages, which I was shocked how many I saw. I only saw one 48 leaf page, I think, on the whole floor. But it's way out of most normal human beings' price ranges, including me. So the Bowman was a great alternative. Never bad to get a Satch card, right, George? Never bad.
Oh, yeah, never bad.
So I look around. There's like we've said before, all of us have said on this show, lots of high end ones, 6s, 7s, 5s even. I'm like, well, I'm not going to blow my entire budget for the show on one card. I just don't. I get there. There are guys that do that, and good for them. That's just not the way I like to work. I'm trying to get a quantity of quality. So and then I saw some beaters, 1s and 2s, right? So I'm like, okay, you just keep looking, Mike. Just keep hunting. You never know what's going to be at the next booth. And I came across this one on Wednesday morning. It's a PSA 3. It's off center, but I called Dave, right? Blue Jacket 66, 49 Bowman, expert. Hey, I sent him a picture. He's like, Mike, don't care about centering. They're all off center. So don't worry about that. Worry about the registration, the color, the printing, that it's clear and not blurry. All of those things. This card looks beautiful. And if that's what you're seeing, then that's your deal. And this dealer was certainly, I paid way under comps, by the way, for the same grade. And that was the biggest card I picked up. So glad that I got that. Any thoughts, comments?
Did you get that on Tuesday or
Wednesday morning?
Yeah.
And I didn't find it till Wednesday. We were only at the show on Tuesday we got there 3:00-ish and it closed at 4:30.
Oh, okay.
So we didn't have a lot of floor time, just enough to kind of orient yourself and get some basic lay of the land kind of thing. The same dealer I bought the Diamond Stars from, he had a bunch of great 50 and 52s and just all kinds of great stuff. I got a Pee Wee Reese.
Yeah, you got a card there that I was looking for that I couldn't find.
This one right here?
Nope. Oh, come on. I have that.
I got a 52 Bowman Stan Musial in a 5, which never thought I would buy a 5. But you bundle this stuff together and it starts making more sense, because you get a larger and larger discount. Let's see. I got a couple of 52 Tops cards, honestly. A Pafco, card number 1, just a classic card in the hobby, mine's in a 2. But what's cool is you can find, because you have so many to choose from, even in low grades, you can really look for good examples in that grade. Do you all agree with that? You can be more picky is maybe not the right word, but certainly you just have more options, right?
It's like Lou Rock says, even OC cards need love,
right?
Even 1s and 2s need love. I look at all this stuff, like a lot of that stuff that like if I almost bought another 50 Bowman Jackie because it was in a 1.5 and it was a really nice 1.5, and the guy wouldn't go to meet me at where I wanted to be. But I didn't necessarily put it out of my mind that I wasn't going to buy the card, but I was still interested in it. There's all kinds of cards in the grading scale, but you find them and you're like, well, why is that? That doesn't look like a 2, or that doesn't look like a 1, which is what I kind of like the ones we're looking for, at least of the higher, rarer cards. Mike, what made you go with that specific satchel page? You said it was the color and the background, the registration of it. Did it just pop to you? Did you just say, wow, totally, that looks better than the others?
The minute I saw it, well, it's always a combination of card, buy the card, not the grade, but it doesn't mean the grade doesn't matter to me. So I cared about the grade, and price. You have to find where all three of those are good for you, whatever that is in your mind. All of us have budgets, and I had a budget, and because I wanted to try to get both the mantle and the page, and I knew I couldn't do it if I spent too much on the page. Believe me, I probably wouldn't have regretted the decision, but I just
No, you'll never regret anything on that card.
I got
Spawn.
Nice.
Beautiful 52 top Spawn. I mean, this was just a card, again, not targeting, but I saw it and the colors just popped on it. Even though it's a PSA 3, it was just gorgeous. And I'm like, yeah, and the price was right. Like, that's the thing. It's like, if I would have seen that card and it was twice as much, I wouldn't have even negotiated. I would have just walked away and moved on to another card. But when you find a card you need or want in the right price, then you do it. And then I got the mantle 53 tops. So I needed this one in the 52 to finish a mantle run of all this Bowman and tops cards, base cards. This is a card I've thought, the 53 tops, I've thought has been well out of my normal price range forever. It's always been a popular card, one of the most beautiful cards in the hobby. And I found this 1.5 and I couldn't believe how awesome it looked. And I was like, now there is a crease on it that runs right through the middle, but I had to look, when you have to take a card and look at it from so many angles to find what's wrong with it, and you never don't see it again. Like, that's kind of the thing. But I still have to, like, even on this one, I have to really, now where was that again? It doesn't stand out when you use the arm.
Card, then. I agree. That's a good card, then. If you can't find a crease right away.
And so being a 1.5, it was like, okay, if I do the page and this, I can do both and still be able to pick up some other stuff. So that was a great pick. George, you saw it in person, right? Both of y'all saw it.
It was nice. It was nice. I mean, yeah, if you can't see the wrinkle, like, you got to start doing this to it. I mean, if the wrinkle doesn't break, I know some people are averse to wrinkles, but I mean, my thought is I'd rather have centering and registration. Wrinkle, I'm fine with a little wrinkle here and there. It's like, if it breaks the color, then that's a problem for me personally.
Right.
But that was a really nice mantle. I think that was a really good move. I was looking at that card myself. One thing I did notice is if you were in the market for Mickey Mantle, this is your show. You're gonna find more mantles than you've ever seen in your entire life at this show. We talk about the high end stuff. Now, are you gonna find rarer mantles? Maybe not. But if you wanted to do your mantle run, I mean, there was a guy who had like 10 raw mantles, all going all the way down to like 53 in a series of like 6 cases. I don't know if you saw this.
I did.
It was pretty amazing. But also, like, you could, like, people brought a lot of their Jackie stuff, not the rarer stuff, or you couldn't find much, I was looking for a 48 swell Jackie Robinson, and there was one at the show, and plenty of 48 leaf rookies, plenty of 50 Bowman Jackies, plenty of 56 Jackies. So, like, it was good for, a lot of the all-time greats and their base runs. I think that's what a lot of people seem to bring, at least in vintage, that I saw.
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to show couple more. Another gift from a great guy right here. PSA 5, 1970 tops, Pete Rose, and a PSA 5. That was from George himself.
That should be a 7, Mike. That's like a 7.
I looked at it on the plane, and it's got to be the back centering is the only thing that killed this card.
Yeah, I don't know. That card's awesome. So
it is awesome.
I hope you enjoy it.
Very much. It's going into the beast as soon as this show is over. This was that last time I'm showing these off before they go to their permanent home. I also got a 70. This was a found money thing. I won some money at the casino and was able to pick up a 71 tops Frank Robinson and a 7.
I was talking to John Wade Boggs fan with you when you first saw it. And we were in line because I was filming him getting Wade Boggs' autograph. And I get to it, but I'm not sure exactly what that card is. He's like, I know right where it is. And he was going, and you, I guess, according to him, you were like, "Are you sure?" And then he went to the table and was like, "There it is."
He did.
And
I
the
was
beauty
like,
of having friends in this community.
I couldn't believe. I thought it was literally on the other side of the room.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Are you sure we're going in the right direction?" And he said, "Yep, I know exactly where it is." I said, "Okay," because he was trying to buy a card from the same dealer, and but I was able to finish my Robinson run, so I'm super
That's
thrilled about
really
that.
nice. 7
And
inch.
then here's another example of a card you have no idea you want until you see it, but it was a 73 Calby Sadahara O.
I got a Sadara.
You did?
I did. First card I bought in the show, nowhere near being on my radar.
Yeah. But that's what's cool about a show like this is you will see things. I agree with you, George. There's not like tons of super rare stuff that we might be looking for. Honestly, we probably couldn't afford it if we did see it, but that the guy that had all the Japanese stuff, I just went totally blank on his name.
Robert,
Thank you. Robert had all the he's super nice.
That's Prestige Collectibles, right?
Yes, Prestige Collectibles.
and he knows all the YouTubers.
Yeah.
And he's like, Field of Dreams, Diamond Yard, baseball collector.
Yeah, he was great.
He's really great. I mean, he gave me a really great deal on mine.
Yeah, me too. And he also taught me a lot. Like I didn't know anything really. And so I'm like, okay, tell me about this and tell me about this and that. And so I've always thought about adding one, but I always felt uneducated to make a good decision about what card to add. Does that make, have y'all ever felt that way? Like, I don't, George doesn't, he knows about everything, but the rest of us humans have to.
But when I bought mine, I mean, the eye appeal of mine caught my eye right away. I'm like, that's a cool card. But I had Rick Oddball cards and John Mangini with me. And they were both like, if you don't buy it, we're buying it. Like, okay.
That's all you need to hear, right? Yep. So that, I had a great show in terms of pick. I was able to add everything from Page and Mantle to stuff like a 56 Topps Richie Ashburn, but unfortunately there wasn't a lot of this. There was a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah. Well, you bought the 50 Ashburn. That was the card I was talking about. It was on my list that I couldn't find. Which I laugh how we say we always collect. We both buy Sadara or O. I was looking for that card. Couldn't find a decent one.
Well, this is a great looking 4.
Yeah, that's the range I was looking at, 3 or 4.
And I paid $55 for it.
Yeah, that's a great price. And you bundled. I saw your video with the 3 other cards you bought.
Yeah.
I remember that vendor because I remember those little black. I think there's a bunch of girls working. Working the.
Yep.
I remember
they were like what you would get at a jeweler.
Yes. So when I saw that on your video, I was like, I remember that booth.
But that was classy. Like,
yeah,
that really made the cards pop and stand out.
We're both talking about it. It made an impression. We remember that booth. I don't remember any of the cards they had, but because they did that, that's a unique selling point. That's cool.
For sure. I literally didn't pay sticker for any cards. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot if the stickers are bonkers, right? But the reality is I was able to buy at or below comps on every card that I bought pretty much.
Yeah.
Other than the Robinson, which was at the end, and I didn't care because it wasn't my money, it was Hera's money. Right. So I didn't, I just bought at comps or slightly above.
With the Nashville too, I found a musical piece that I'd never seen before. I knocked $50 off of it, bought it, was showing everyone at the house. Never seen it before, didn't see it anywhere else. They're on the shelf. And you know what? I found another one. I can't believe there's another one here. And I was almost afraid to look at the price because I'm like, oh, I hope I didn't overpay. I couldn't look at Tom. It turns out the one I bought was a lot less than the one that the guy had. So I was like, I've never seen this before in my life. And today I've seen, within 2 days, I saw 2 of them.
Right. Any cards you were targeting that you couldn't find, George?
Yes, a lot. But I also realized that I need to be more focused with my list. I had a list of like 30 cards, and I probably should have narrowed it down more. And I'm just looking for certain things and certain grades. But yeah, I was looking for a 48 swell Jackie Robinson. There was one at the show, didn't particularly like it, and my son's back there. And the dealer was actually one of the two dealers at the show that was kind of standoffish. Most of the
Oh, I
show
was
dealers.
with you on that one. That guy was a jerk.
You were there.
Yeah.
You saw it.
Yeah.
Don lifted his eyes, just like. But anyway,
What's wrong with the story? I mean,
no.
or, I mean,
I said to him, I said, this seems like the only swell Jackie Robinson at the show I've seen so far. And he looks at me, he's like, well, good for me. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't help. That doesn't help lubricate the wheels here, man. I was trying to do a deal. I was looking for an E101 Christy Mathewson or a Dockman & Sons Christy Mathewson. It's a sideways Mathewson with like the fire sky in the background. And there was a 7 at the show, which was very expensive. And there was a SGC 4, which I was interested in. And I started trying to negotiate with the dealer. Do you buy cards? And so I took out some of my cards to have him to look at, there was a 49 Bowman Jackie Robinson there. There was a 50 Bowman Jackie Robinson there. They were centered. And he looks at me and he's like, nah, I'm not interested. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll move on. So a lot of funny experiences kind of with just interacting with dealers. But I would tell you what, I remember when I was a kid, you go to shows and the dealers are these old codgers. And maybe it's just my impression. You'd be like, I see that Hank Aaron. And they're like, you can't afford it anyway. Yeah, that was kind of my impression of the past of dealers. And these days, dealers are way better, I think. I mean, I see most dealers standing up, showing attention. You want to stand up as a dealer, not just be sitting there on your phone. So I feel like most of the dealers, though, those stories are the outliers. But other cards I was looking for, I was looking for a 38 Gaudy Joe DiMaggio that was like maybe a 2 or a 3 that was like nice and not. I couldn't seem to find one. There were a few at the show, I couldn't find one of those though that I felt like was where I wanted to be on that. There were a lot of Cobbs there, a lot of T206 Cobbs, a lot of cool cards, but those are just 3, I guess. The E101 Mathewson, the 38 Gaudy, DiMaggio, and the swell Jackie. I was not finding what I was. You, Don?
Yeah, I would tell you maybe 10 to 12 cards is a good focus list amount of cards to have, because it does get so overwhelming. And what's funny is as you go along in the show and you have just a few cards in your mind, you see them faster at a table. And it just like, oh, I got it. Or nope, they don't have it. Because you know what that card looks like in your brain. Mm-hmm. And you can just recognize the page. I was looking for pages, right?
Yeah.
Well, that color is so distinct. And I had it in my mind what it looks like. And I could just, move on, get through it quickly. Don, what about you? Any experiences with?
Yeah, I mean, last year it's funny. The stuff I bought last year was Clemente heavy. This year I didn't buy any Clementes, and I got a lot of my Muzio stuff, but it was kind of unique oddball stuff because there's only so many Muzio cards, and the ones I don't have are so rare. And I came across one. Learned my lesson. If you watch my channel, you know what I did last year with Honest Wagner. The guy said 27. I'm like, 27,000? He's like 27.5. I'm like, okay, good. I didn't bid $25 on it this year, but yeah, it was. I was surprised. I bought more things that I didn't expect to than I did. I mean, my big card was the 49 Bowman that I wanted. The 48 Leaf Museum. The 49 Leaf is big on my list. It just wasn't in my range this year. And I watched one of your earlier videos with you and JT. It must have been the first day. And when I ran into you guys and I was commenting to him, boy, I really like that 2.5. And he's like, I flipped it. He's like, I got this 4. And I don't remember if it was you or him that said it's for sale. They gave me a price that I thought was fair. I figured JT was giving me a deal, but I didn't know how good of a deal until I got back to the room and looked it up. And when I saw him at your get together, I had to go up to him and like, thank you, man. I can't believe what a deal you gave me. And he ended up telling me the whole story later. I know he paid for it. He didn't make that much money on it.
He did not.
At all. And I was like, I'm so appreciative that you did that for me.
But do you know what he told me? That he was so excited to be able to do that for you.
Yeah.
That was a second. He made a little money, like literally a little money. Like,
yeah, he made $50.
yeah, but he held it for like half
He
an
could
hour.
have made a lot more.
Yeah.
He could have
Yeah.
made a lot more, and he knows that, but he's like, that's not.
But he
You know-
probably knew I'm a musical collector. You know, like that means to me. And I always look at that card, and I'll always remember being. You were actually talking and said, "Hey, I'm going to get a hot dog or hamburger or whatever." Come
Yeah.
over the line. Well, I just went over to BS with you.
Yeah.
So I'll always remember when I look at that card. I'll remember that experience, and that he threw me a bone, and I know that. But that's again, getting in this community, and if you want to get in it, please do. We're all accepted, and the amount of free stuff I got. The guys in the house, Rue Dog came up, give me some stores, give me. I got an autographed piece of Negro League players, and Buck O'Neill's one of them. And Jake and Reindeer Studios were showing it to me, and he slid it aside. And he had a second one. I'm like, that's so cool. And they're like, it's yours. I'm like, what? What do you mean it's mine?
Wow.
Right.
I muted George just because I can hear a buzzing in the back. So George, I'll put you back on when you need to talk here.
Yeah. And there was another incident where I bought something and they bought me something. Yeah, I'll talk about it on my channel, but it's like good God, guys. Like, it's just, you don't go in expecting that, nor do you, I don't want to say want it, because we appreciate it when we get it, but that's not what it's about. We're not going in there to get free stuff.
Right. Yeah, I would, as we finish up here, I don't want to go. I mean, we could talk literally for hours about the show. I think we've hopefully given you guys a great insight into our experience and given our vintage what we look for. Hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed hearing about it. No bad things. I mean, I'm not going to remember in 5 years the fact that there was no parking or that they ran out of food or that a couple of dealers were jerks. What I will remember is all that, like you said, Don, the experiences, the hanging out, who I got cards from. I'll never forget that I got that 70 Tops Pete Rose from George. I'll never forget.
You know what, Mike, last year you influenced me to go. I harped on George to go this year. George has to pass it on to someone else. And like I was telling guys, I thought last year it was okay. It's my bucket list. Knocked it off. Good. I've got a national under my belt. I'm good. No. It's like, unless I just really can't make it, I'm going to try to be there every year possible.
Yeah. George, any final thoughts from you?
Are you hearing that buzzing?
Yes.
That is, those are locusts. Those are cicadas. I'm outside. They buzz like electric wires here in the summer. If I got the best pickup for me of the show was something that I got from Scott Reindeer Studios. He's going to do a video about it. It's something that we worked together with an idea on, but really, he put together and did an awesome job. So I'm going to show it once he shows it, but it's something, if you're into vintage, you're really, really going to like. And it was incredibly touching and awesome. So shout out to Reindeer Studios. Check out Scott's
awesome.
channel, obviously.
I've seen it too. And I've shown a card of the player that's featured on it in this show. So
I saw it at his house when it wasn't done. And then 3 days later, he texted me a picture. I'm like, I can't believe how much more you've got finished on that thing. That guy's amazing. He'll never admit it, but he's world class.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Mike. I really appreciate it. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys for coming on. And leave comments. If you have questions, Instagram, you can Instagram me at Baseball Collector Mike. George has his own channel, Diamond Yard Sports Cards. It's fantastic, awesome vintage stuff. Go check it out if you're on YouTube. Don's Field of Dreams cards, of course. Amazing collection. If you like my stuff, you'll like George and Don's stuff, I promise. And
absolutely. We collect a lot of likes.
We do. And so thank you guys again for being here. And to all of you out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to keep collecting. We'll talk to you soon.